with that, I'd like to formally welcome everybody to this summer research seminar. And as I mentioned earlier, oh, hang on a second here. There we go. We've got some 40 people that have signed up, so I'm really looking forward to this week. And I'd like to, welcome the folks who are here from Africa as well as other parts of the world. This session that we're in now, which will last for a little over 3 more hours. We want to do in the sort of the first half of it, roughly, introductory material, both about the summer research seminar and then helping us all get to know each other a little bit, and ending that first half with shared worship to sort of start off and ground and center and root the experience for the rest of the week. And there'll be repeated worship later as we go along. I'll be doing this initial welcoming along with Susan Cousins and Jeff before we go into breakout rooms and do other introductory stuff and worship sharing. And then in the second half of this first session of the summer research seminar, we'll have a set of presentations and sharing around questions about moving beyond colonization and decolonization. So for my part, just to sort of start this off, I'd like to just sing a little song if it's okay, because in the jumble and rush of getting ready for these kinds of things and kind of centering, I find I'm often kind of running around, and it sometimes helps me to kind of settle down a little bit with a little bit of a song. I have a short song that I'll just share with you all, and then I'll go on to say a little bit about the history of QIF and some background about how we're going to proceed. Okay. So it's a song about slowing down, where the idea is that if we slow down, trying to get to sort of a slow zoom, as it were, that's a little bit like slow food, where we think about what it is that we're taking into our bodies or our minds to nourish ourselves, and both what it is and where it's coming from and how it connects us to the rest of the world. That slow food or slow zoom can be part of a more general slowing down for our culture that can help us, in some sense, arrive where we want to get sooner. So the song is about slowing down to get there sooner. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna slow right down, yes, so I can get there sooner. Yes, I'm gonna slow right down so I can get there today. Yes, I'm gonna slow right down. Oh, maybe even come to a full stop. Oh, maybe if I come to a full stop, I'm gonna get there right away. Yes. Well, so a little bit about the history of the Quaker Institute for the Future. As I started to mention earlier, it was founded 20 years ago, and founded first because we thought that there was a need for a kind of Quaker think tank that might respond to other think tanks like the Heritage Foundation or the Cato Institute and so on by trying to develop research and policy analysis that would be informed by Quaker values, by a vision of the world we seek as Quakers. And the group that met in Pendle Hill to work on sort of an ecological testimony had a small subgroup that met later here in where I am now in Maine, Bar Harbor, Maine, in the territory of the Wabanaki, and it came up and went ahead and started and incorporated QIF. And from the beginning, part of the idea was not only that we should do research and policy analysis that would be informed by Quaker values, but also that we should govern ourselves as an organization using good Quaker process, sort of meeting for worship for the conduct of business in the way that Friends do in their monthly meetings and yearly meetings and so on. But then we also had the thought, well, maybe we should try to do research in that way. We should have meetings for worship for the conduct of research, where the thought was that it would be possible to do collaborative, dialogue-based, spirit-led research on the issues and concerns. And so we've been experimenting for 20 years now with different ways of trying to do that, with variations on things like the way clearness committees work and meetings for worship for the conduct of business and monthly meetings, but also there are a variety of other kinds of innovations and experiments Quakers have done through the years. Elise Bolding's Imaging a World Without Weapons workshop was one sort of a variation. The Listening Project. There are just a variety of kinds of ways that Quakers have tried to take spirit-led practices into other parts of their life besides the Quaker community. And so we've been experimenting with those. And certainly a key part of that has been for us the summer research seminar, which we've been holding now for almost 20 years. And in it, we try to use worship sessions as a way to sort of start and ground the process of sharing research at whatever stage the research may be at, and then using clearness committee kinds of processes to help people along. And the particular dynamic of how that happens in each session can vary, and I think we'll find that this week, because it depends in part on the stage of research or activist analysis and stuff that people are at. If somebody has been working on an issue for 3, 5, 10 or more years, they may have something relatively polished that they want to be sharing with friends, and maybe even at a point where they think it may be possible to call other friends to action on it. In which case, in some ways, the clearness is more about the rest of us sharing the clearness that the person already has, right? In other cases, someone may be at the very beginning stages where they have a leading, it may even just be a kind of an inkling of where they're going. Or they may have something that's kind of jumbled and confused, but they know there's something there. They've got something in them and they can't shake it loose. And it's the core of a spiritual leading for doing some kind of research or analysis. And certainly in that kind of context, often rather than a polished presentation, something that's relatively short, that sort of shares the concern and invites people to then go into worship and really help the person who's working on the project or feeling the leading discern it better and understand what the questions might be and how to follow up on it. That's more important. So I hope these comments are suggestive and give you the sense that the particular dynamics in each session may vary appropriately, depending on the stage that the leading is at. And for those of you that are new to the Quaker Institute for the Future, there is, as Ludmilla had mentioned earlier, a book on the website on Quaker approaches to research that sort of goes over a lot of these experiments and approaches to it, and it's recommended. It's also worth mentioning that besides the summer research seminar and various kinds of shorter workshops that we've done through the years, we also have developed a format that we refer to as sort of circles of discernment, which are groups that are sort of the longer form of this. They may go on for 2-3 years or more in some cases, where some small group of people are working on a leading around activist research kinds of policy analysis or other things, working towards a book or some other kind of outcome. And they might meet once a month or so and be working on this, but they're trying to do it still in various kinds of spirit-led ways and practices. And there are a number of circles of discernment right now that are working on issues of moving beyond decolonization, on critiquing and trying to change the monetary system, and bridging polarities that are going to be sharing this week, that are at different stages of their work. So those are kind of key things I wanted to mention just to sort of help orient folks. And there may be other questions that come up, but there's going to be room in the schedule for people to both to ask questions that may be of personal interest, and also to be sharing interests beyond the ones that are formally in the program. So just to look briefly at the program, let me share it on the screen here very briefly, not to review the whole thing, but just to note that in a typical day, can you all see this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Could I pause here for one moment to put a summary in the chat?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I had started that, but go ahead, Milan.
Okay. But so can I go ahead with the screen share? Okay, just to note, in the typical format for each of the sessions this week, there are going to be 3 sections, sort of a typically 3.5-hour session at the beginning. It will involve normally some worship at the start, although today we're doing it a little bit later because we would like people to be introduced to each other a little bit before we go into worship. And then panels or presentations, and then a break from what would be 4:30 to 5:15 in Eastern Daily Time, where it's not at all obligatory to attend. None of this obviously is obligatory, but it's sort of an open slot where people can get acquainted in groups. And so the Zoom room will be open. It'll be possible to create breakout rooms if people want to go in and speak French or talk about a particular topic on monetary theory or whatever, or just hang out and eat some lunch together, whatever. And then there'll be a follow-up to our session starting at 6 o'clock Eastern Daily Time. That typically will be a more open format, but it'll vary by day. That's just to give you a sense of the structure each day. Okay. And so I think that's probably enough by way of initial introduction for me. And I might turn to Susan now because she has some things to say about our approach and protocol to dealing with situations where we want to say, oops, I shouldn't have, what did somebody say? Or whoa, what did they say? Or what did I say? Or, what might I do to apologize or deal with something when I say things that are outside the appropriate norms and exercise of care. Susan, you want to go ahead?
Sure. We want this obviously to be a brave space in which people can speak their hearts, and we have sometimes had incidents in the past where someone participating said something that was insulting or offensive, and so we've developed our consciousness of the fact that harms the community as well as potentially an individual, and we've been trying to develop a process for recognizing those moments and allowing for us to heal from them. So what we're experimenting at this point, I have put into the Community Bulletin Board, which Jeff is going to share with you in a few minutes. And it's a process that we've adapted from North Pacific Yearling Meeting as they've learned into Brave Spaces as well. Let me just read to you what's there and then emphasize what that might mean in a session that you were in. We're invited to live into our commitment to diversity and inclusion in this year's SRS with respect, courage, and curiosity. If you are harmed by what someone says or does, you may share your experience in the setting where the harm occurred. That is, we're really asking you, if you see something, say something. If you feel something, say something so that we can address it together. You don't need to explain to anyone what caused the harm, but you're welcome to do so. If you hear or see something insulting or offensive, you're encouraged to respond, either in the moment or during a period of afterthoughts. Some ways to interrupt harm include, I hear this, or I wonder if that, or a pattern that I recognize here is, or friends and colleagues, remember to do something, or I just realized, or just plain calling for silence. The moderator of the session may also call for a moment of silence to recognize that what we've done, what's just happened, and have the group hold it. And then the moderator is responsible for the moving the group on when the time is right. We should recognize and interrupt harm from a place of love. Please be tender towards one another, communicate respect, be honest, and exercise the discipline of deep listening. In order to make sure that we have opportunities to heal, we have a care committee and we stand ready to help. So if you have any concerns that you're carrying out of such an experience, or just anything that you want to talk about in relation to the process, please feel free to contact Charlie Blanchard, Susan Cousins, Jeff Garber, or Shelley Tannenbaum, although only on Monday or Tuesday for that. And there are emails for those folks in the listing of this procedure that's in the Community Bulletin Board. We've had at least some real success with making this process explicit and making our expectations explicit. And we actually hope that we don't need to use the process, but if we need to, it's there, and it's important to all of us to recognize harm and to hold it among ourselves in a way that we can heal from it. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks very much, Susan. Jeff, you want to go ahead and talk about the Community Bulletin Board file and any other technical stuff?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. So we're, I hope, starting to get some experience in doing these by Zoom. This is our 4th year doing it this way. And one thing we're finding is there's certain things we can't do when we're not together physically, but there are things we can do that are perhaps easier even with Zoom. So, you know, we've become more accustomed to using chat, and for example, in times when we want to get information from everybody, but going one by one will take more time than seems worth it. So you can sort of get everybody to share, and we'll have some examples of that today. Another thing that we've done starting in 2020 with the first one of these is we've set up a community bulletin board. So and in addition to that, this is now, I think this is the first year we're doing this. We've got sort of a community folder that includes that. So let me just show you what that looks like. And I'll just quickly walk through it. And really, as I do this, I would just want to encourage you to make use of these ways to communicate. So I will put in the chat a link to this folder. When you click on that link, you'll see this. So there's a folder, as Charlie mentioned, for each day. So this is material that would be particular to each of those days. So I'm just seeing this for the first time, but there's one called Monday presentations. I will, for example, put the presentation I'm going to be doing at the last session of today in there, and others of you who are making presentations are invited to do that. You can do that directly. All of you will have editing capabilities that will allow you to do that. If you have any trouble, please come to me and I'm happy to help. Then we have the Community Bulletin Board. So those of you who have been with us in the past have seen this. And so this is just a way for us to share ideas that we didn't have a chance to share during the various sessions that occur to us later. We think of, oh my gosh, I read this thing that was so on point here and so interesting, but it doesn't come to you until you're on, you have your head on the pillow at night or something, and you want to share that with folks. Well, that's what this is about. So there's a little note of welcome. There's also this contact list. I thought I had this open. So I meant to add myself to this. I'll do that right now. And then invite you all to do this. So this is really a way for you to say, I'd like to stay in touch. I'd like to, with the folks who are here, I'd like to be available for people to communicate with me about various things. So please feel free to add your name. Again, if this technology is confusing or beyond you and you'd like to be added to that, you can also let me know, and I'm happy to add you. As Susan said, there's also, so you can take more time to consider this, the what she just read to you about addressing harm with care, and the contact information of the committee, the care committee that's been set up in that regard. And then day by day, there is a space for people to, number one, share any ideas you have for the interest and get acquainted groups. So say tomorrow, I think today that's really a lot about just informal getting acquainted. And again, I encourage, it's great that all of you to try and show up there just so you can meet some people. I've set that up with different breakout rooms. I think we can have up to 5 of those. If some of the folks there want to go and have a topic on a particular conversation, they can go to a breakout room. Sometimes in the past, it's just been whoever shows up being in one big room and informally sharing. But again, if you have, say on Wednesday, I'd really like to talk about, following up on something that came up about overcoming colonial legacies. You could go to Wednesday and list that here. So that's just an example of how you can let people know that here's a topic on a particular day that you'd like to have a discussion about. And then for each day, there's also this section called afterthoughts for each day. This is really meant to be wide open. Ideas that you want to share, resources and links that you want to share with everybody. Maybe you want to say a little about why you found a particular thing interesting. Here's the space to share that. So hopefully by the end of the week, this is a lengthier document, quite a bit lengthier. And this isn't really just for this week. This is something then as a resource that you can look back to, because we'll keep this this link will remain available to you. So if you remember somebody listed a resource here when you're thinking about something, or in my case, it's often if am I writing something and I want to follow up, this can be one of the many resources we have to continue the experience here beyond Friday and the end of the week. So I think that's what I wanted to say. If Gray, Susan, or Charlie think there's something more to add there, feel free.
I think, Susan, feel free to correct me, but I think that's all the key stuff we wanted to say by way of introduction.